Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Elevate Customer Experience Through AI and Human Collaboration. I'd like to thank Grammarly, our sponsor for today's discussion. It's with their support that allows us to bring this event to you free of charge. Before we begin, I must review a few housekeeping items. We are recording today's event and will have the on-demand version ready for you within 24 hours. We will email you once it's ready for you to view at your leisure. Next, I want to draw your attention over to the questions section of your webinar console. This is the best place to get involved, get interactive, and post all your insightful questions, comments, feedbacks, and ideas. In fact, why don't you head over to the tab now and give it a test run by saying hi to the community here with us today. As a quick note, that window is also the best place to reach out and let us know if you have any technical issues during this session. Don't forget that a browser refresh should clear up any of the more common issues with slides or audio. But if not, just shoot us a message and that questions tab and our team will be there to help. And last, it's not just awesome content we're giving away today, we also have a $250 gift card as a prize drawing at the end of our webinar. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Victoria Martinez, Custom Content Editor for Marketing, Retail, and Technology here at SmartBrief, and I'm happy to be here with you today and moderate today's discussion with our leading experts. Our discussion today will focus on three main topics: how AI is transforming the way we interact with customers, strategies to enhance operational capabilities with AI, and how to harmonize automation with the human touch for a seamless customer experience. Our goal is to show that AI is not something to be shying away from, but rather a tool that can bridge the gap between AI and human partnership, allowing us to do more with the right technology. Now let's get our panelists out here. Today we have with us David Huang, Chief Customer Officer at Grammarly, and Katrina Clear, Chief Executive Officer at Sage Strategy Group. Can you each tell us briefly about yourselves and your company? David, let's start with you.
Hi, happy to. Hi, everyone. My name is David Huang. I'm Chief Customer Officer at Grammarly. I lead our customer success and customer support teams, along with a few other teams that work really hard to deliver a great experience for our users. For those that are unfamiliar with Grammarly, we are the world's leading AI writing assistant, trusted by 30 million users and over 70,000 professional teams. Tens of thousands of CX teams use Grammarly to help their teams communicate professionally and to ensure that every message they send is on brand. Grammarly is a real-time AI coach that reduces onboarding time for new hires and provides just-in-time recommendations for CX teams wherever they communicate.
Katrina?
Hi, thank you all for having me. I'm Katrina Clear. I'm the CEO of Sage Strategy Group, and I've spent my career explaining technology and all kinds of things to people over time. And at Sage Strategy Group, we bring the wisdom of success from the world's greatest brands to you. We create profitable growth at scale by creating fit-for-purpose go-to-market strategies that are, of course, measurable, repeatable, and scalable. We're big fans of using technology effectively here at Sage Strategy Group and also help with a lot of MarTech strategies for our clients. And we're also a Grammarly user, so I can tell you that it is a really good platform. So happy to be here today.
Thank you. Thank you both. Welcome. Let's start with the big picture. David, you've been working in this space for over 20 years. Give us an idea of your current priorities as Chief Customer Officer and how Gen AI has influenced them.
Happy to. To be honest, AI hasn't really changed our priorities much. I think for most CX teams, we remain really focused on delivering world-class customer experiences to drive retention and growth, and to do so as cost effectively as possible. What has changed is maybe the pace and scale at which we're being asked to do it in. We have more customer interactions than ever before, and we're being asked to do it in near real time with expectations of response and resolution in real time. And it means that CX agents, CX teams have to be some of the best communicators in a company. As you can see on the slide, CX teams professionals today spend the majority of their work weeks just communicating, and half of that is in real-time communication with customers. So organizations really need to prioritize how they're enabling their teams to make that communication as effective and as efficient as possible. The other thing that comes to mind for me in this age of AI is the consideration that I'm sure many CX teams are starting to struggle with, which is finding the balance and blend between human support and AI support. I think it's going to create new questions, new challenges for leaders and teams, but also some new opportunities to think about how best to provide consistent and on-brand experiences for customers across all of those channels.
On the customer side, are you seeing any significant changes on how customers are interacting with companies?
For me, I just think about this continued consumerization of customer expectations on the business side. We've all become accustomed to in our personal lives accessing products, services anytime, anywhere we want. It was sort of cliche in the early 2000s to call all solutions on demand. I think we are there, and that's very real today. And customers want to have that flexibility in their work lives as well. They want to have options to channels of support. A lot of people like to find answers online on their own in a help center or community. Email and chat, I think, continue to be the kind of main channels of support. And I think we're seeing the most evolution in chat. Customers expecting to find ways to resolve issues on their own in those chat sessions. And so that is an area of big focus for us here at Grammarly. And on the topic of customer interactions, the last thought that I would share is that when people think about customer experience, they automatically think of customer support, and customer experience is so much more than that. Customers interact with lots of different teams today. On the business side, that could include sales, could include customer success, other named designated contacts and support, which could include technical account managers. There are lots of people that customers are interacting with today, making it that much more critical to ensure that there's consistency across all of those interaction points that customers have with your organization.
I completely understand that. Katrina, can you share some perspective from your end on current trends that you're seeing?
Sure. We see AI comes up in almost every conversation anymore, to be honest with you. And, I think most brands and companies have really started to look at it first more from an operational standpoint and how it can help, especially in those customer facing types of functions, whether that's in the back end operations of that function or actually engaging with their customers as well. I would say we see really two main impacts from Gen AI, to be honest, right now. Really, those come into play in terms of the next level of personalization that's possible because you have this richness of data and then the speed with which you can do these things. Like David mentioned, people's goals haven't necessarily changed as much. You want to have a great customer experience at whatever point you are engaging with them, that stays the same. But things are moving a lot faster, and you can have way better tools and resources and data at the disposal of your customer facing teams. And I think that's where we see it most is really the next level of personalization and speed. And I think from a broader brand standpoint, AI can really assist your content teams in building better content faster, quite honestly. You can use AI to analyze massive amounts of data, find nuances and trends and things that you might have overlooked otherwise, or that would just take too long, quite honestly, to get to. And so AI can really speed up your content team's production. I would say, you put all that together, it can do a lot of great things for you, but you do still need the people involved. But AI, we're seeing it in a lot of operational type capacities on the go to market side of an organization.
Now you said something companies can use to build better content faster. What strategies can companies adopt to enhance their operational capabilities with AI?
Yeah, well, I always tell people to think about it this way. AI is basically turbocharged data. It's high powered data. It's lots and lots of data, and it's high velocity data. And your operations run on data, regardless of where that is in your company. And so the first thing a company needs to do is really think about how and where they might want to use AI in their operations, and what are you trying to solve for? What do you want to do? And that's really important because from there you can pick your data sets and your large language models or LLMs much more clearly because you know what you're trying to solve for. If you're trying to improve the response rate in your customer support organization so that they actually solve people's problems, they don't just hang up on calls, some of these old metrics that people sadly still use, then that's one thing that you could look at. If you're looking at ways to build content for ownable spaces as a brand that are a little bit more nuanced, but yet can be personalized to the audience you're trying to reach, that's another way. But you need to really think about what you're trying to solve so that you can pick the right data sets. Once you do that, you really want to know how the source data is harvested, cleaned, and maintained. That's really, really important to know right now. You can have a very unfortunate brand problem if you don't have the answers to those three things. And ideally, you want to use your own data, but you may or may not have enough, or it may not have the breadth of information in it that you're really looking for. So just know that background, and then also be on the lookout for any legal or privacy compliance issues that might pop up in the data sets you choose, or in processes that you might have in place to use AI and the data that comes with it, because the legal landscape around AI is changing pretty radically and constantly, just like everything around AI is. So you want to make sure you stay on top of it, and that the vendors you choose to work with are as well, just like you do with anything else related to privacy and those kinds of things. And lastly, I would say, the communication and training of your employees is really essential. There's a lot of fear mongering out there around AI today. And personally, I think it's unnecessary. It's another tool that can help people do their jobs more effectively. But you need to position it that way. They need to understand how the tools work, how it fits into their workflow, and they need to be involved in setting up any AI based solution that you have, and be able to talk about it. So I would say those few things, like, know what you're trying to solve, be mindful and thoughtful of the data sets and large language models that you use, and get your employees involved. They'll really make a big difference.
Great. Thank you for that. David, touching upon what Katrina said, in what ways can AI empower customer service agents to be more efficient and effective in their roles?
I like a lot of what Katrina said. I really love how she described AI as supercharging your data, and I think that's how we're seeing a lot of the benefits today in customer experience. I think there is going to be tremendous upside, and we're already starting to see the benefits of AI across a number of different areas. On the back end of what many customer support teams do, we're seeing AI streamline how cases are routed, how content's created for help articles, for templated responses that teams have. It's also helping us with quality assurance and customer sentiment analysis as well. On the front end, I think we're seeing in the industry a lot of investment happening around AI-driven chatbots, email automations, advanced knowledge base search capabilities that are allowing teams to find quick and accurate responses for their customers. AI is also helping to expedite the ramp up process for new hires. It's giving new agents quick understanding of accounts, context in accounts, customer insights, and producing answers for them so that they can respond to customer inquiries much faster than they would have before. It's helping to reduce the time and effort it takes to ramp up new agents and helping them become much more productive much faster. So it's having real benefit for teams, and it's translating into real results for organizations as well. Databricks, as an example, they are a great customer of ours at Grammarly, have been for a number of years, and many teams at Databricks use Grammarly, and we are thankful for that. But their global support team, many of whom are non-native English speakers, are some of our biggest users. They use Grammarly across their entire team to help their teams communicate more clearly, more professionally. And we've heard from the team at Databricks that because of Grammarly, their teams have been able to improve productivity by 10 to 15%, and that they've been able to improve case resolution times by 25%. So the benefit of AI is very real and is being realized today.
Now, from the user side, how does Grammarly use AI to improve the customer service user experience? And what functionalities does it offer? Can you provide some successful implementations?
I would be happy to talk more about Grammarly. A lot of people have a misconception that Grammarly is just a spelling and grammar checker, and it's so much more than that. We offer a lot of different features that help teams improve their communication to become much more efficient and effective at it. First, our style guides and brand tones provide real time communication guidance based on a company's unique brand guidelines. We load that into our solution to ensure that every customer interaction is consistent, that teams are using the right words, the right spellings, and tone in every written communication they have. Our generative AI capabilities help produce first drafts, revised responses. And as I mentioned before, it's helping to streamline a lot of the manual work that goes into creating help documentation. Our newest feature, strategic suggestions, understands the context of conversations now. It anticipates the questions and concerns that customers might have and provides proactive recommendations to help our teams produce, really effective answers from the get-go. The last two features I'll mention are snippets and knowledge share, ones that are often overlooked. Snippets offer a library of pre approved, commonly used terms that teams can use for quick responses. It's like macros that you might find in other solutions, but they can be used anywhere your team writes. And knowledge share brings helpful information to teams, where they are writing, where often you have to go and find information in a separate wiki somewhere. Knowledge share puts that into the text that agents are writing so that with the hover of a mouse, they can see exactly what that term means.
And actually, that goes ties back with what Katrina mentioned, that you have to make sure you have the right information and the right data. So I think this actually wraps all that up really nicely. Katrina, with what David has explained, how can companies harmonize automation with human touch to ensure that there's a seamless customer experience?
Yeah, well, there's a lot you could do there. As David mentioned, AI powered automation really, I mean, we've seen it a lot with a lot of our clients, and I'm sure, and David, in your Grammarly customer base, you see it all the time as well, can have a really positive impact on customer experience and operational efficiency, like both things together. I would say, as with all tools, these AI solutions work best when they're created and implemented with both the people who are going to use them and the people who benefit from the outcomes in mind. And I would say a lot of times when you're making operational change, the focus is usually on the people using the tools. But in the case of AI, in particular solutions, because they move so quickly, you really want to make sure you take a balanced look at both. And in particular, think about the people using the tools, because the humans are where empathy comes from. A lot of your AI tools can detect sentiment and those kinds of things, but a human is uniquely wired to be empathetic, pick up on sentiment and trends, and be able to respond. And then if they're working with an AI tool that gets them that data and information so much faster to act on the cues that they're picking up from a customer, the benefits are tremendous. And customers really want to interact with empathetic people. You don't want to, nobody likes the overly robotic type of engagements. This is why I think some early things in AI maybe didn't work quite as well, because the experience was kind of flat. It didn't really have that human connection and part to it. So I always tell people to think of AI in general as another vendor in your mix that helps your team perform well. AI is brilliant and can do a lot of great things for you, but just like any other vendor you'd hire to help your team, AI needs context, right? For what you're trying to do, your brand tone and voice, and what you're trying to solve for. And it also needs oversight, when that can really only be done by people.
And you mentioned the human connection enhances AI. Can you elaborate on some human insight amplifies AI's capability and why human oversight is still really necessary?
Sure. One example we've seen a lot with the brands that we've worked with, particularly on the content creation side of things, is they're looking for conversation areas that draw
Mhm.
in their potential customer base, and topics that are what we call ownable, meaning their brand can have a really strong voice there, create connection, and make more of a lasting relationship with the customers they're engaging. So, leveraging AI can really help a brand do that more quickly and find those ownable spaces, because, again, you can use it to analyze just vast amounts of information define those valuable trends or those niches that might be a little bit more overlooked that could use a little more conversation that would be valuable to your customers and your brand itself. But to do this again, AI needs oversight by people. The humans can sense and find the emotional connection in those topics and opportunities that AI uncovers from those trends. And so that's a really interesting angle to think about, that connection. AI can also predict some sentiment, but like we said, you want the human to be able to act on it quickly in that regard. And I would say then the other part of this content creation side of things is, you found your ownable space and your niche that might be useful to people. And then you start putting together your content. I would recommend not outsourcing all of that to an AI tool to write all of it. It can get you started, it can give you a good draft, but you want to make sure your voice and your brand personality come through. And I think that's where, when you get to the later stage of content development, a lot of tools that have AI features in them, and Grammarly is one of them we use, can really help ensure that your content stays on brand and that you're communicating effectively. So you can use it throughout these different processes. And in particular, everybody's creating more content than ever, but at the same time, mixing together that human empathy, the human emotion, the human tone of voice together with all of the amazing analysis and things that AI can do, and then the sanity check on the back end, is really where the power is.
Great, thank you for that. And then thinking about the synergy between human insight and technology and AI technology, David, how important is contextual AI when delivering accurate and relevant responses to customers, and how can Grammarly help?
I think Katrina is exactly right. I mean, context is everything. You have to understand it to make sure that you are delivering an empathetic response to customers. And it's hard to get right. It's what teams are trained to do. But for agents themselves, it's hard to shift from one conversation to another. Requires a lot of mental load to reorient, recontextualize from one situation to the next. And that is where Grammarly is able to offer a lot of help to teams by offering contextually aware Gen AI at the exact point that CX agents are communicating wherever they write. And AI has come a long way in you know understanding context and sentiment. The feature I mentioned before, strategic suggestions, is a great example of that. You see with now those suggestions that it is understanding, the intent, the emotional nature of the question maybe that's being asked, anticipates how a customer might react to a response that we're giving, and makes recommendations to help our teams re- land those responses as effectively as possible from the beginning, reducing the back and forth that commonly occurs in cases. And I think this is an area of AI that we're going to continue to see, continued advancements in a really rapid way.
Great, thank you for that. And it's something that Christina mentioned earlier, that is actually a big touch point, is privacy and data. With the increasing use of AI in customer service, how can companies ensure that privacy and security of customer data is top, it's top of the mind? And what are some of the key considerations that companies should think about?
Yeah, I wish I could replay everything that Katrina already said prior because she really covered, I think, all of the important considerations that people should have when thinking about AI. But it starts with finding a trusted vendor, choosing the right vendor to work with because their risk becomes your risk. And a lot of that starts with data, how they're using your data, whether or not it's being used in their training models. And if so, if you have the ability to opt out, whether that data is being sold as part of the vendor's business model. Important questions for everyone to ask. You really want to focus on security. Does their infrastructure for security meet best in class? Their networks, their platforms, their data security processes. Are their security claims validated by reputable third parties and other industry certifications? You want to make sure that security is a priority for the vendor. And real easy way to assess that is to see what sort of team they've built around it, to see if they have dedicated roles like a chief information security officer, a privacy leader, to know that it truly is a continuous and focus area for the business. I think once you've found that trusted vendor, then, as Katrina said, it's all about training your employees, your CX team on understanding how to handle sensitive customer information, the policies that you should have in place, but really hosting training sessions to educate your teams on how to identify sensitive information, how to handle that information, and to determine then what of that information can be used and incorporated into your Gen AI workflows. And lastly, it's about managing access, having a clear strategy around how you're going to govern and control access to that sensitive customer information, ensuring that essential customer data is accessible only when needed. And that is an area where I think Grammarly shines. For the last 15 years, we've been a leader in privacy and security. And I may be biased, but I think Grammarly is a great example of what a trusted, Gen AI partner looks like. For instance, Grammarly users have the ability to opt out of data training. All users do. And Grammarly doesn't work in fields marked as sensitive or confidential in emails or documents.
Great, thank you. So we've touched upon the benefits, we've touched about security. What are some of the challenges and opportunities that you've encountered in adopting AI in customer service?
For me, it's really interesting. We had a state of business communication survey earlier this year, and in that survey, we saw that CX teams had the lowest level of adoption of Gen AI, which I found to be pretty surprising. I think in a year and 2 years time from now, we're going to see the results of that survey change, because of any team, CX teams have the most to gain from Gen AI. I think there's a good chance that, as Katrina said, maybe there's some fear mongering, that CX teams are worried that maybe Gen AI will replace the work that they do. But the sooner that teams can embrace it, the sooner they'll get the benefit of it. And Grammarly is a great way for people to get started. It's a tool that many individuals are using personally and professionally already, and it brings AI directly into the flow of work for teams and meets all of the security and privacy requirements that IT teams have. And it works wherever teams work. So,
Mhm.
it is a great way for teams to get going and to really see the power of Gen AI.
Great. Thank you so much. We've really touched upon many points of adopting AI into our customer service workflows. Katrina, looking forward, what future innovations in AI do you think will have the most significant impact on customer service?
Oh wow, I really wish I had a crystal ball on this one. Predicting technology trends is dangerous business in terms of being able to have a good success rate. But I will say, AI innovation is fluid and it's still rapidly evolving. I think we're seeing so many interesting innovation and experimentation projects going on right now, both with the developers of these tools embedding different kinds of AI technology in other platforms to add features and functionality, and in how brands and individuals use them. I would say in particular around customer service and any kind of customer engagement, really, again, if you're involving the employees who are going to use those tools in the decisions and in the strategy early, that's when I think you'll have the best results. And what you could say, well, that's always true when you're doing any kind of things. I've done digital transformation work for a long time, and I would say that was true there too. This is another version of that. They can tell you where the friction is in their job. They can tell you where customers get upset or where things don't really resonate with them. They can tell you all these things. And so listen to them and then use that information in how you build out your solutions. That way you get a solution that's actually going to solve your problem, and you'll get over any of that like concern or fear from an employee standpoint that they're going to get replaced by a bot, when that's not the case. It's really more to help them do their job better and more efficiently. So get them involved. I would say brands that continue to experiment and innovate with AI will set the tone and pace for really interesting things that we'll see going forward. And I can't wait to see what people do. It's going to be exciting.
Definitely is. David, what about your thoughts? What future innovations do you think will have the most impact on customer service?
I agree. I wish I had a crystal ball on this. It is hard to say, but when you look at the tools available to teams today, they're far superior than what they were just a year ago, even 6 months ago. So there's a good chance that this rapid evolution will continue. As I said before, I think context is going to be a key impact area for CX teams. Companies struggle today to create 360 views of their customers when they have many teams that are interacting with them. As AI memory capabilities continue to evolve, I think there will be new ways for CX teams to understand the full context of a customer interaction, including recall of past interactions that maybe other team members have had, and potentially what the next best action should be. I think there will also be an evolution of agentic AI, meaning AI will be more autonomous and will take on more decision making responsibilities, which sounds really scary. But in the context of CX, I think it means that we will see AI automate a lot of routine CX tasks and take on a lot of the cases that teams are having to manage today. I think there's a great positive there. It's going to make more time, more room for CX agents and teams to really focus on higher touch and more personalized experiences for their customers. And we are, of course, pushing innovation on all of these fronts here at Grammarly. We've always been the most ubiquitous AI writing assistant. We work across the desktop, across over 500,000 apps. We're helping professionals communicate where and wherever they write. And that ubiquity is what is allowing us to increase the contextual support that we're able to provide to our users. And our future developments will be focused there, but remain focused on delivering to everyone in the workplace effective and on brand, but now contextually aware communication.
Thank you. Before we turn to our audience questions, what is your key takeaway that you want for the audience?
I guess I have three. The first one might be a little bit of a call to action, and it's similar to advice that Katrina gave earlier in the conversation. But know what level of care your customers need across the customer journey. Determine where AI can be used to automate or augment those interactions. But look across that journey to also see where maybe you need to provide a complete human touch. The second is, a thought around the customer experience space. The landscape is getting to a point where businesses need Gen AI to keep up. Now is the time to adopt Gen AI capabilities to help your teams build AI literacy. CX is an area where we can have measurable impact because metrics are so closely managed around agent productivity. So the ROI of AI is something that can be proven out, I believe, very quickly in the world of CX. The last takeaway that I would hope that everyone walks away from this conversation with is, one of the prior slides that we had up that showed CX agents today spend the lion's share of their days communicating. So if there's one area to focus on, if you're starting to consider I encourage everyone to look there because it starts with increasing the effectiveness of your team's communication. That's where you will see immediate impact and longer term gains as well. Um, Communication is not just external either, it happens internally as well. Troubleshooting issues, raising escalations, uh, providing customer feedback to work on new solutions. A lot of the communication that CX teams do is internal as well. And the AI capabilities that point solutions are introducing today, they just won't be enough because they won't cover this very important part of how teams communicate today. And Grammarly is a solution that helps with communication wherever it happens. So give Grammarly a shot if you haven't already, and join the 70,000 other teams that are using it today to improve their communication.
Katrina, what would you add to that?
Well, that was a great list. Thanks, David. I'll add a few maybe slightly broader things to that. And the first really is to really follow the trends in AI usage and learn from others. Attend webinars like this, read the case studies that different vendors have on their websites, talk to people that you know and how they're using it. Just keep on top of the trends and learn from others. It'll save you a lot of time in your own experimentation. And along with that, continue to experiment, give it a try. AI should be a core part of your innovation strategy. It shouldn't be something that sits way off on the side by itself. If you're building innovation, you really need to think about how AI fits in. I would also say, as both David and I have said throughout this conversation, know your data and your LLMs in detail and be able to explain the what, why, and how of what's in there, how it works, and why you've made certain decisions. Continue to listen to and engage your employees and customers both and how AI is used moving forward and get a sense of what they like. You can experiment with more full AI solutions for some customer interactions that are pretty straightforward. And maybe they're perfectly happy with that. And that's great. And that means you can use your people for the things that are a little bit harder to solve or that require a little bit more human touch. And again, last one, remember AI is a technology, it is not a human. And the best solutions involving AI have a human component with them because empathy is really essential.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, both of you, so much. This has been a great discussion so far, and we appreciate all of your time and your willingness to share your expertise. Now, let's turn it over to our audience. Audience members, please continue submitting your questions as we start the Q&A session. And we already have a few questions coming in. Okay, let's see. How do you foresee the balance between human agents and AI in customer support? Where will AI augment human roles, and where will it fully automate processes? David, do you want to take this one?
Sure. As I mentioned before, I think as AI gets more sophisticated and agentic, we will see AI manage more cases to full resolution. And I think that is going to free up time for CX agents and teams to really focus on, higher touch customer interactions. As Katrina said before as well, AI can ingest and analyze a lot of data very, very quickly, a lot of data that we have today that we haven't been able to turn into actionable insights. It's, I think, going to be able to help us, understand our customers better, to understand what cases, we're seeing most, how that trends over time, what strategies work best or not, responses that work better than others. It's going to help us identify where, we're seeing success in, time to resolution and customer sat. So it's going to, help us in a lot of different ways, not just in offloading the kind of urgency of support from, our teams, but it's also going to help us gain a lot of insights, I think, that will help us continue to get better and better.
Great. Katrina, anything to add?
I agree with all of that. That was great. I think the early wins you can have there is some of those repeated questions that people have that are simple answers. I'm trying to find this piece of information, or I'm looking for something else that are pretty straightforward. There's probably only one answer to the question and not, 10 possible answers. And I think AI can solve a lot of that now. You see it often with chatbots and different kinds of things on different websites and that kind of stuff. And people tend to like it. Like if they could just solve their problem quickly without having to wade through phone trees and click through a million things and all that kind of stuff, they're, the dreaded, your number 8,050 in a queue will get to you sometime this century. Like, then they're happy, right? Because they get their answer faster. And I think you'll see a lot of that um, kind of simple answer kind of things move completely over to AI because it's a really easy thing to do for everybody.
Great. Second question we have here. How can generative AI improve the analysis and understanding of customer sentiment and feedback? Who wants to take this question? David, let's go with you.
I can get started. I think this is an area that AI is going to benefit CX organizations quite a bit. Today, most organizations rely on customer sat surveys to look at customer sentiment, and those response rates aren't very high usually. AI is going to now give us the ability to look at a whole lot more data and to get really good at context awareness, emotion detection, but to really help us get a better feeling for what that customer sentiment is from a much larger population of users than we're hearing from in those customer sat surveys today. And I think as AI grows more pervasive across the entire customer life cycle, it really is going to help us gain those 360 insights, as I mentioned before, to help us really understand the customer's lifetime experience with us, and to take that into account in the interactions that we have with them.
Katrina, anything to add on that aspect?
Yeah, I think David said the holy grail that we're all trying to go after in this, and that's the lifetime customer experience, right? Not just moment to moment. Those are all important and you need to get them right, but the sum total of it. And I'm excited about AI on data analysis because you can take things like the series of events that were done and executed in a particular customer interaction. A lot of customer support calls, as an example, are recorded, and you can take the scripts from that for training internally and analyze the words used, analyze the pace and tone of things, analyze then the connections and trends within that to the outcomes that were recommended to how your customer behaved afterwards. Did they churn faster? Did they buy more? Were they generally happier afterwards? The next time they called, was the tone better? Did they seem grateful because it worked? You know what you recommended, it worked, it made them happy. And I think the ability to analyze data across a set of customer experiences like that to both improve the customer outcome, improve operational efficiency. Like, we've never really been able to do this very well before. I mean, you could kind of get there, but it just took so much work and we just didn't really have the tools. And I think that's the most exciting thing right now. I think it could really be pretty cool.
Okay, thank you. We have one last time for one last question. Okay, this is, what are ways that I can get leadership buy-in to adopt new AI tools for my team? David, let's start with you.
I hope we can get Katrina's thoughts on this as well, because I think it's a great question. I think a lot of people are struggling to get buy-in for different AI solutions. I think there's an overwhelming sort of availability of AI solutions, and many teams that are trying to do different things. Be prepared to articulate the benefits of the solution that you're trying to bring into your company, and work on a business case that shows how it can be self-funding in the near term and transformational over time. Most CFOs are looking for ways to fund these different initiatives, and if you can help show them a path to making it self-funding, that really is the easiest way to get going. And that can commonly be found in avoided future hires or redundant costs that you can eliminate in other existing software or contractor services. But it's important to tie that business case to the strategic business objectives that you have as a broader organization, and build consensus and alignment with other teams. You want to make sure that that alignment is there, and you want to make sure that you're not creating silos with apps that might not work well together down the line. And if you have to start small, start with a pilot, prove it out. It's most important to get going quickly, because the space is evolving fast. And like we were saying before, if you don't, you will quickly fall behind.
Katrina, your thoughts?
So a big yes to everything David said. Any of these decisions, you need to know what problem you're trying to solve, that it will actually get solved, and that there's benefits to the solve being in place. I would say the last piece of advice I have is de-risk the decision. And de-risking the decision means you've gone and talked to your IT organization, you've talked to your chief information security officer, your CISO, whoever manages security and privacy for your company, which is probably some people over in IT and some people in legal. Go talk to them ahead of time and make sure that there's no gotchas at the end of this deal, that you've cleared those all up. And that will de-risk the decision for your leadership team, because then you've got all your bases covered. You've got the business case and you've de-risked it and the things that they don't want to deal with, which is IT and legal problems. And then you should be good to go.
Okay. Well, thank you both. It has been super insightful. Thank you for sharing all your insights. We've learned everything that we wanted to know about AI and human collaboration. Again, we hope that you found this session valuable. And finally, a special thank you to Grammarly for making this event possible. And before we wrap up, we have one more little bit of fun to add to today's already awesome webinar. It's time for a prize giveaway. A reminder that you must be present at the live webinar today to win and meet the prize terms and conditions in the audience console. Today's 250 Amazon gift card winner is Julie Krivenik from Colorado. Congratulations, Julie. As always, we will be in touch about claiming your prize after the webinar. Again, thank you to our sponsor Grammarly and our audience. This concludes today's webinar. Have a great day.